Drop a comment telling us where you're watching, then like, share, and subscribe for more twists. A bright August sunrise glinted off the sapphire blue Tesla Roadster Plaid as Dr. Elias Monroe eased down Silver Birch Lane, the newest resident of Silver Birch Meadows. After 2 decades designing ion thrusters for NASA, he was ready for slower orbits, barbecues on weekends, morning jogs along manicured sidewalks, maybe even a little stargazing from his own backyard. The Roadster's trimotor hum whispered possibility as movers hauled boxes from the 26-foot rental truck behind him. Elias parked temporarily at a 40-foot concrete driveway leading to a pristine 2-car garage. He climbed out, stretched, and breathed the cedar-tinged air, already imagining where his telescope would sit. The peace lasted all of 30 seconds. A trim woman in a pastel pantsuit strode up, clipboard clutched like a badge. "Good morning. I'm Karen, president of the HOA," she announced, pronouncing the acronym as though it were scripture. Her perfectly coiffed blonde bob bobbed again when she eyed the Tesla. "Beautiful automobile," she added, smile tight enough to chip enamel. However, Section 7, subparagraph B of our regulation states that sports cars may not be left in driveways overnight. They must be garaged out of street view. We prioritize curb appeal here. Elias offered a courteous nod. "Dar." "Elias Monroe, propulsion specialist," he replied, extending a hand. Karen's handshake felt like a temperature check, quick, clinical, done. "I appreciate the heads up. Movers need a little space right now, but I'll tuck it inside once the garage is clear." Karen's pen hovered over a pink carbon copy citation pad. "The rule is immediate compliance, Doctor. Plenty of residents manage to rearrange belongings promptly. I'd hate to issue a notice on your very first day." She glanced at her smartwatch as if counting the seconds of leniency she was sacrificing. Inside the open garage, stacked furniture, tool chests, and an 8-foot oak bookcase blocked any hope of instant parking. Elias pictured shuttles docking with millimeter precision and suppressed a sigh. "Understood. I'll accelerate the unloading." The aerospace pun sailed past Karen, who simply jotted a line on her pad. While movers wrestled a leather sectional through the doorway, Elias rolled up his shirt sleeves, shifted boxes of graduate textbooks, and disassembled the bookcase with an Allen wrench. Sweat beaded on his brow. Alabama summers had nothing on Houston, but Silver Birch's humidity gave them a run. An hour later he'd carved a Tesla-sized berth measuring exactly 78 inches wide, just enough margin to avoid scuffing carbon fiber mirrors. Karen reappeared, seemingly materializing from behind a 10-foot crepe myrtle. She inspected the cleared bay, then the Roadster. "Glad to see we can work together," she said, tone implying a pop quiz passed. "Remember, trash bins must be stored behind the side gate by sundown." Elias managed a cordial smile, lifting the Tesla's gull-wing door and sliding into the cockpit. As the garage door rolled down, sealing the car from neighborhood view, he felt the first faint tug of orbital friction. The subtle resistance of a community determined to keep every resident in perfect alignment with Karen's interpretation of the rules. He exhaled, fingers drumming the yoke steering wheel. Welcome home. Morning dew still clung to the fescue lawns of Silver Birch Meadows when Dr. Elias Monroe stepped outside, coffee mug in hand, to watch the movers rig rumble away. His Tesla Roadster Plaid now sat snug inside the freshly organized garage, the door closed like the hatch on a pressurized cabin. For a few blissful minutes he enjoyed the ordinary suburban soundtrack, sprinklers ticking, a distant lawnmower, cardinals chirping in the maple trees. Then came the staccato click-click of low heels on concrete. "Good news, Doctor," Karen called from the sidewalk, clipboard in tow. "You passed overnight inspection." Elias mustered a smile. Glad to hear the neighborhood orbit remained stable. If Karen caught the aerospace joke, she gave no sign. Instead, she eyed the 2 trash carts still sitting near the curb. "Our guidelines state receptacles need to be rolled behind the side gate by 9 a.m. sharp. It's currently 8:53, so you've got 6 minutes. I'll take care of it. He raised the mug in a friendly salute, steam curled into the humid air. Karen's gaze drifted to the ceramic cup. Open container rules apply outside the dwelling, any beverages must be in lidded travel tumblers. Safety first. Elias glanced at his ordinary stoneware, then back at her. Understood. Only when Karen's Lexus SUV purred off, her HOA vanity plate reading rule, for you, did he exhale. The woman's intensity rivaled a static fire test. Neighbor intel that afternoon he met Sam and Marisol Whitaker, a retired Coast Guard couple who lived 2 doors down. Over iced tea on their porch they offered a crash course in HOA politics. Karen's been president 5 years straight, Sam said, stroking a salt and pepper mustache. Folks keep expecting someone to run against her, but she scares off candidates before ballots print. Marisol leaned in, conspiratorial. Last 4th of July she fined the Martins $200 for an overly festive flag display. Elias raised an eyebrow. Is that even possible? They had red, white, and blue solar lights around the flower bed, Sam explained. Karen said the bulbs were non-conforming lumens. Elias chuckled, then sobered at their solemn expressions. The anecdotes piled up like rivets on a fuselage. A disabled vet cited for a therapeutic ramp Karen deemed unsightly, a single mom warned for hanging children's art in a street-facing window. Minor infractions, major penalties. She enforces to the letter, Marisol concluded. No mercy, no exceptions. The surprise, courtesy notice a week later, Elias returned from the grocery store to find a neon yellow slip taped to his front door, courtesy notice, HOA violation, sounds resembling engine revving, recorded at 0702 hours. Corrective action, limit noise to 50 dB before 8 a.m. deadline, immediate he blinked. At 7:02 a.m. he'd been indoors grinding coffee beans. The Tesla, being electric, made no more revving noise than a hummingbird. He pocketed the slip and walked next door to Karen's home, a 2-story colonial trimmed in immaculate white azaleas. The brass door knocker, shaped like Lady Justice, clanged softly under his knuckles. Karen answered wearing a pastel tracksuit, smartwatch aglow. Oh, hello doctor. Something I can help you with? Elias held up the notice. This says I exceeded the noise threshold at 7:02. My vehicle was dormant, and I was only making breakfast. She tapped her tablet, scrolling logs with practiced flicks. Multiple residents reported engine-type sounds. Could be the Roadster's charging cycle producing transformer hum. It draws less than an air conditioner. May I see the decibel meter reading? I don't disclose complainant data, she said crisply. But consider this a friendly reminder, community harmony relies on vigilance. Translation, don't argue. Husband in the wings. Until that day Elias had only seen fleeting glimpses of Karen's spouse, Harold Cranston, a balding man in aviator glasses who jogged the cul-de-sac at dawn. That evening, Harold ambled over while Elias adjusted a satellite dish mount. Beautiful night, Harold observed, wiping sweat from his brow. Mind if I take a look at that setup? Always been fascinated by comms gear. Elias welcomed the distraction, explaining how the dish would feed real-time telemetry alerts from NASA's publicly available satellite tracker. Harold listened, nodding enthusiastically, yet his eyes kept darting to the partially open garage. Quite a machine you got there, he murmured. Karen says flashy cars can make potential buyers think we're, pretending to be a luxury neighborhood. Prices skyrocket, taxes follow. That's an interesting economic theory, Elias replied. Harold laughed nervously. She worries a lot, that's all. Wants the place picture perfect. He gestured toward the driveway. Better not leave that beauty outside, Karen's on edge about storm season and, potential vandalism. I've already been warned, Elias said dryly. More slips, more pressure in rapid succession, 2 additional courtesy notices appeared, outdoor lighting infraction, porch bulb labeled excessive brightness for migratory birds. Unauthorized garden ornament, a bronze sundial, birthday gift from Elias's sister, deemed visual clutter. Each slip carried the HOA letterhead, Karen's signature in elegant cursive, and escalating threats of fines. Elias logged every notice, photographing time-stamped evidence for what he half-jokingly called his case file Alpha K. Marisol stopped by with banana bread. "You're on her radar," she warned. "We can organize a community vote to amend bylaws, but Karen's proxies show up in droves." Elias thanked her, chewing warm bread while weighing options. He could lawyer up, but litigation might drag on longer than a Mars transfer window. Instead, he resolved to play defense, document, comply where reasonable, and avoid open war. The garage camera installing a smart camera above the garage door felt prudent. He linked it to a secure off-site server and set motion alerts to ping his phone instantly. The system captured the usual neighborhood traffic, dog walkers, mail carriers, plus Karen's Lexus circling twice between midnight and 1 a.m., headlights extinguished. He forwarded one clip to his own email with a terse subject line, "Anomaly, Night Surveillance September 2nd. Evidence, should he need it." Foreshadowing at the HOA meeting mid-September brought the monthly HOA meeting in the clubhouse. Folding chairs lined a bland beige room illuminated by fluorescent tubes. Cupcakes and decaf coffee sat untouched on a vinyl-topped table. Karen presided at a podium, Harold at her side flipping PowerPoint slides. Agenda Item 3, Mitigating Non-Conforming Vehicle Storage. Karen clicked to an image, a bright red sports car parked sideways across two spaces, not Elias's. She spoke of perceived exclusivity, insurance risks, and property value volatility. Eyes flicked toward Elias even though the photo wasn't his Tesla. During open comment he rose. "As homeowners we all value curb appeal, but enforcement must be data-driven, consistent, and respectful," he began. "Blanket assumptions about vehicle type or color can border on profiling." A smattering of nods surfaced. Sam Whitaker clapped twice before Karen cut discussion short. "Thank you, Doctor." Duly noted. When the gavel ended the session, Harold intercepted Elias near the exit. "No hard feelings, right? Karen just has to keep order." Elias shrugged. "Order's great. Transparency's better." A tense equilibrium. By early October, Elias managed near-perfect compliance. Trash cans vanished behind his cedar gate at 8:59 a.m. sharp. The sundial moved to a backyard rock garden. Porch lights dimmed via a smart switch that throttled lumens after dusk. In theory the turbulence should have decayed. Yet an uneasy stillness settled over Silver Birch Lane. A lull before atmospheric re-entry. Late one Sunday, as Elias reorganized his garage workshop, he heard a faint metallic clink outside. Peering through a side window, he spotted Harold's silhouette lingering in the driveway, gazing at the Tesla through the garage's glass pane. When Harold noticed the glance, he offered an awkward wave and hurried back toward his own house. Elias checked the camera feed, motion flagged at 10:17 p.m., subject ID, Harold Cranston. No wrongdoing. Yet the hairs on Elias's neck prickled. In aerospace engineering, minor anomalies often precede catastrophic failure. He made a silent note, monitor pattern. Increase vigilance. As the autumn leaves began to bronze and drift across manicured lawns, the fragile piece in Silver Birch Meadows felt like a weather balloon stretched near bursting, a skin of latex straining against invisible pressure. Elias couldn't shake the sense that Karen's need for obsessive order, and Harold's jittery complicity, was steering them all on a collision course. The roadster, secure though it seemed, had become a lightning rod for that tension. Somewhere above, satellites he'd helped engineer sailed across the star-speckled night, their orbits predictable to the millisecond. Down here on Silver Birch Lane, human trajectories were far less stable, and Elias braced for the moment when precision would give way to chaos. The late October sky above Silver Birch Meadows shimmered with an unseasonably crisp clarity, perfect for backyard astronomy. Dr. Elias Monroe stood beside his cedar deck, tablet in hand, pointing out Jupiter's pinprick glow to Sam Whitaker while the smell of Marisol's apple cinnamon cobbler drifted over the fence. The tranquil evening masked a surge of excitement humming just below Elias's calm exterior. Earlier that day, an email with a blue NASA header had appeared in his inbox. Congratulations! You have been selected to join the Advanced Propulsion Boot Camp at Armstrong Flight Research Center, Edwards Air Force Base, California. 6 weeks of cutting-edge theory, hands-on test stand work, and desert range flight validation. Report date, November 5. The program was a coveted slot, open to only 10 senior engineers nationwide each year. For Elias, who had spent 20 years shaping ion thrusters and Hall-effect drives, this was a chance to plug directly into NASA's next big push toward lunar gateway missions. His pulse still beat a half-step faster than normal. Sam clapped him on the shoulder. 6 weeks of Mojave sunsets and experimental jets. You lucky dog. Marisol beamed. We'll watch the house. Just leave us a key so we can water your bromeliads. Elias glanced at the two-car garage, door closed tight around the Tesla Roadster Plaid. I appreciate it. Though honestly I've installed enough sensors to monitor a SpaceX launch pad. Sam chuckled. You can never be too careful. Karen's been circling like a hawk. Pre-departure countermeasures. Over the next 5 days Elias prepared his property with the meticulous redundancy of a lunar lander checklist. Motion-activated floodlights, lumens precisely within HOA limits, covered every facade. 2 new 4K cameras with infrared capabilities angled toward the garage. The Tesla's charging cable snaked through a heavy-duty relay that would ping his phone the instant voltage dropped. Inside the garage, Elias set what he half-jokingly dubbed CLAM, capstan lock against mischief. Originally a boat mooring device, the capstan now served as a floor-anchored spool of marine-grade chain. It looped through the Roadster's forged aluminum rear suspension arm and padlocked with a half-inch thick boron carbide shackle rated to resist bolt cutters and angle grinders alike. Harold Cranston jogged by as Elias tightened the final link. Sweat darkened Harold's gray LSUT, but his eyes tracked the operation with unnerving focus. Going somewhere, Doc? NASA boot camp. I'll be gone 6 weeks, Elias replied, keeping his tone casual. Ah, desert sun. Don't let the scorpions bite. Harold's laugh came out brittle, forced. You sure you need that much chain? Silver Birch is pretty safe. Old test pilot habit, trust in wheels, but anchor the craft. Harold nodded. Right. Karen will keep an eye out, of course. He jogged off, pounding the sidewalk as if chased. Elias watched him vanish, then double-checked the padlock. The chain felt cold and absolute, yet a whisper of doubt lingered like static before a thunderstorm. Karen's final inspection on November 4th, the evening before departure, Karen arrived unannounced for a brief goodbye inspection. She wore a silk scarf patterned with tiny gavels and carried a phone loaded with HOA bylaws PDF. Lovely evening, she said, stepping onto the driveway. Her gaze flicked to the garage door and lingered. I thought we'd verify compliance while you're away. Wouldn't want a forgotten garden hose to devalue the neighborhood. Elias kept polite. He walked her around the property, answering questions about watering timers and fertilizer types. She twice asked if he planned to leave the Tesla charging inside. Each time he confirmed yes, inside, safely locked. At the curb she offered a smile that never reached her eyes. Have a productive trip. HOA will conduct weekly exterior checks. The words felt less like neighborly reassurance and more like a line from a Cold War spy novel. Mojave Horizons. The flight to LAX was smooth, the drive to Edwards punctuated by Joshua Tree silhouettes against crimson dusk. Armstrong's on-base lodging was Spartan, cinderblock walls, Army-issue bed, but the test stands roared with promise. Elias buried himself in work, calibrating ion grids, running argon plasma diagnostics, and swapping theories about electrostatic acceleration with 20-something PhDs. His phone chimed nightly with house monitor prompts. Day 8, all clear. Day 12. All clear. Day 15, garage sensor offline. No voltage draw detected. Elias sat bolt upright on the dormitory bunk. Sensor offline. He tapped the camera app. The overhead feed flickered, then froze on a gray screen marked "No signal." The side door cam still functioned, showing the lawn bathed in moonlight, but the garage angles were dark. He checked the floodlight logs, one burst of illumination at 2:13 Central, duration 12 seconds. He felt his pulse accelerate to launch control tempo. Could be a glitch. Or sabotage. He dialed Marisol, her sleepy voice answered after 3 rings. Sorry for the hour, Elias said. Can you walk over and check my garage cam? It's offline. 15 minutes later she returned the call, breathless. Elias, the side doors busted. Wood splinters everywhere. The Tesla? I can't see it through the house alarm strobe. The main door's shut. Sam's calling the sheriff. Breach confirmed by dawn. Elias was on an American Airlines Red-Eye laptop balanced on his knees, drafting incident reports between turbulent patches over the Rockies. 4 hours after touchdown he strode down Silver Birch Lane, suitcase in tow, heart hammering. A patrol cruiser idled at his curb, crime scene tape stretched across the garage. Deputy Tanya McCauley greeted him. Dr. Monroe. We've secured the site. The chain on your car was cut with something industrial. Angle grinder, maybe demo saw. She lifted a clear evidence bag containing a scorched link of the marine chain, ends melted. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. The garage smelled of ozone and burnt steel. The padlock lay in 2 untidy halves. The Tesla's usual berth was frighteningly empty, lithium wall charger blinking blue in a confused search for a partner. Elias swallowed. Any surveillance? We canvassed neighbors. Your side cams were smashed, DVR stolen. One resident said she saw a white panel van around 2 a.m. That neighbor was 14-year-old Tessa Lynn, an insomniac gamer who happened to stream on Twitch into the small hours. Her recorded live stream captured the reflection of a van's headlights in her bedroom window. Frame analysis showed a partial plate, SBR 7. Just enough for DMV cross-referencing. Tarp in the empty lot. Detective Marco Gilbert of County CID stepped in. White vans registered to a landscaping company on the other side of town. Guess who sits on their board? Karen. Elias felt the world tilt. That's mighty coincidental. Gilbert's tone stayed neutral. We can't arrest on coincidence. But we have eyes on the lot behind 111, Dogwood Court, vacant rental property the company maintains. Fresh tire tracks, recently trampled ryegrass. They drove over. The property's backyard abutted a line of pines, leaf-clotted and debris-strewn. Behind a half-collapsed pergola lay a shape the size of a sports coupe, camouflaged beneath a paint-spattered contractor's tarp. Elias's gut thrummed like a thruster spool-up. Deputy McCauley flipped the tarp. Sunlight burst across emerald paintwork. There was the roadster, covered in pine needles, rear tires flat from a hasty drag across gravel. A fat gouge marred the left quarter panel where the chain had scraped during loading. Elias knelt, palm on the carbon fiber fender. They didn't even bother to disconnect the battery properly. A faint, sad chirp sounded as the car attempted to sync with his fob, range limited by the drained 200 kilowatt-hour pack. Gilbert photographed everything, noting boot prints and a discarded latex glove. We'll tow it to forensics. Meanwhile, let's chat with some neighbors. Suspicion falls back on Silver Birch Lane. Karen's Lexus sat in her driveway, windows up, HOA bumper magnet shining. Gilbert knocked. Karen answered in a crisp navy blazer, expression equal parts surprise and indignation. A landscaping van tied to your company was seen near Dr. Monroe's garage break-in, Gilbert stated. Care to explain? Karen's lips tightened. We subcontract fleet vehicles. Hundreds of jobs. I couldn't tell you every location they visit. Gilbert held up a still from Tessa's stream. This partial plate matches one assigned to your HOA beautification project. She crossed her arms. Beautification vans maintain common areas. Dr. Monroe's property violates no less than 5 lawn standards, perhaps the crew checked for compliance. Elias stepped forward, voice level. They checked by cutting through a padlock and hauling my car across the neighborhood. Karen's eyes flickered, a microsecond of something like panic. Then reset to porcelain calm. I can't speak to criminal acts. I do know that exotic vehicles parked overnight can encourage theft. Perhaps, ironically, your chain attracted a determined burglar. Gilbert asked permission to inspect her garage. She refused without a warrant. Instead, Harold appeared, face pallid. He clamped a hand on Karen's shoulder. Enough. They can come back with paperwork. The detectives retreated to draft warrants. On the sidewalk, Harold exhaled a tremor, eyes darting at the squad car rolling away. Aftermath and assessments that evening, Sam and Marisol hosted an impromptu potluck for shaken neighbors. Plastic tables groaned with mac and cheese, hot wings, peach cobbler. People whispered in clusters. I saw Karen driving a white van last week, said she was checking sprinkler timers. Harold borrowed my bolt cutters last month for pruning. Never returned them. Remember when Karen fined the Greers and their furniture vanished during vacation? Elias listened, recording notes on a legal pad. Rumor wasn't evidence, but patterns emerged, property gone missing only to reappear later, always after alleged HOA procedure. He excused himself early and inspected the Tesla in the police impound lot. Technicians had dusted for prints, none legible. The navigation logs showed 0.6 miles driven after unplugging. Motors idle, display cracked near the start button, likely from a dropped flashlight. He stroked the dashboard, whispering, "Hang in there, girl." The Roadster represented more than horsepower. It was the reward for years spent in sterile labs, the tangible symbol of escape velocity from grief following his late wife's illness. A plan forms back home. Elias opened an encrypted folder on his laptop labeled Thrust Reversal. Inside lay schematics for an automated anchor system he'd once designed for a lunar habitat module, capable of remote lock/unlock, telemetry feedback, and explosive bolt failsafe. Too extreme for a suburban garage, but the underlying algorithm might adapt. He drafted a bullet list: repair chain, add titanium sheathing. Install redundant cameras with battery backup and LTE uplink. Engage neighbors in covert watch, create a volunteer rotation. Coordinate with Detective Gilbert for a controlled sting operation. The goal wasn't merely to protect his car. It was to expose a pattern of intimidation hiding behind HOA letterhead. And if suspicion proved correct, bring Karen, and anyone complicit, into the light of due process. At 1:12 a.m. he saved the dock as Orbit, _V1. The desert's call still hummed in his veins, but a new mission now orbited closer to home. The engineer in him relished a challenge. The citizen in him craved justice. Somewhere beyond the window, wind rustled oak leaves, sounding like whispered binary. 0101, yes or no. On or off. Chain intact or cut. Elias powered down the screen and stared into the dark garage bay, lit only by a single red LED on his reinstalled camera. The lens reflected twin pinpoints back at him, eyes in the night, waiting. He whispered to the silence, "Round 1 to you, Karen. Round 2 starts now." Detective Marco Gilbert stood at the edge of Silver Birch Lane, arms folded against the November breeze, watching for any sign that Karen or Harold Cranston might slip out the back door of their colonial. Deputy Tanya McCauley waited beside him, logbook ready. A judge's signature on 2 fresh search warrants lay protected in a legal folder on the cruiser's hood. Somewhere inside the documents, boldface type authorized a full forensic sweep of the Cranstons' vehicles, electronic devices, and outbuildings. The warrants were the hard-won result of 48 hours of hurried legwork. DMV records linked the landscaping van to the HOA Beautification Fund, and tire tread casts behind 111 Dogwood Court matched the van's Firestone at pattern. Furthermore, a latent print lifted from the Tesla's gouged quarter panel came back to Harold Joseph Cranston. Thumb, right hand. That was enough for probable cause. Now the detectives needed cooperation from the man himself. Face to face in the foyer at 9:06 a.m. Gilbert knocked. A full 10 seconds passed before the door opened onto Karen's tight, pinched smile. "Officers," she said, smoothing her blazer lapel. "I trust you have business." "We do," Gilbert replied, producing the warrant. "May we come in?" The porcelain mask cracked for a heartbeat, eyes widening, lips blanched, then she stepped aside. The foyer smelled of lemon polish and fresh-cut hydrangea. Harold emerged from a home office, clutching a manila envelope. When Tanya read the list of items permitted for seizure, he swallowed hard enough for the detectives to hear. Karen recovered quickly. "Harold, please show them the garage. I'll call Attorney Pendleton." "Actually, ma'am," Tanya said, "we'll need both of you present." Standard chain of custody procedure. Karen's phone hovered mid-dial, manicured finger frozen. Harold looked ready to bolt. Elias, summoned by text, observed from the sidewalk, arms crossed. His Tesla sat at the forensic impound lot, but the mental image of that emerald green shell under a grimy tarp burned behind his eyes. Digital bread crumbs. The interior sweep produced a trove of damning detail. In Harold's office, a USB drive labeled HOA_EVID_2022 contained spreadsheets of fines issued and a surprise column, collateral vehicle holds. Next to homeowner names were abbreviations. SBRTS, GRRLXR, LCOBMW. Deputy McCauley cross-referenced, Silver Birch Road Tesla, Elias, Green River Road Lexus, the Greers, and Lake Conway BMW, the Delgados. Even more telling, a hidden folder of dashcam clips featuring Harold driving the landscaping van after HOA board meetings. One file, timestamped 2:08 a.m. on the night of the Tesla heist, showed the van reversing into Elias's driveway. Though the cab interior camera captured only Harold's silhouette, Karen's voice was audible, directing him by inches, left. Easy. Chain first. Gilbert played the audio twice, volume up. Karen's cheeks flushed crimson. "That could be anyone," she said, voice brittle. "I organize volunteer patrols to monitor code compliance." "We'll let the lab authenticate," Gilbert replied. "Mr. Cranston, can you explain these files?" Harold stared at the thumbnails, each a small, incriminating window. His shoulders sagged. I archived HOA operations," he faltered. "Record keeping." Karen snapped, "Harold, don't say a word." She dialed her attorney in earnest this time. The turning point. While officers cataloged devices, Harold drifted to the back porch. Elias, posted near a crepe myrtle, approached quietly. "Beautiful morning," Elias said. Harold flinched. "If you call subpoenas beautiful." His eyes were sunken, the way an aircraft fuselage deforms under constant pressurization cycles, fatigue lines ready to tear. Elias kept his voice low. "Listen, Harold, I've spun through enough failure analysis boards to know the difference between a structural crack and a hairline scratch. You're past the scratch. The data, the camera, your thumbprint, this is real. You have one maneuver left to keep from flaming out, tell the truth." Harold squeezed the manila envelope. Inside, Elias glimpsed HOA bank statements, stamped paid to order. She said we were protecting the neighborhood, Harold whispered. That if we stored non-compliant vehicles temporarily, people would see we meant business. Temporary storage isn't hauling my car across town. It got out of hand, Harold rasped. I never meant to hurt anyone. Karen, she said the bylaws were sacred, that property values depended on image, that the board would back us. He wiped sweat from his brow. But the board doesn't know. She controls the minutes, she writes whatever narrative keeps her in power. Elias leaned closer. Then write a new narrative, Harold. One that includes restitution, cooperation, and a plea deal instead of prison. In the doorway, Detective Gilbert watched silently. Finally, he approached. Mr. Cranston, you willing to make a formal statement? Harold's gaze flicked from Elias to Gilbert to the pale outline of Karen pacing with her phone pressed to her ear. He nodded. Yes. I'll talk. Formal admission at the precinct, Harold signed a Miranda waiver and began dictating. My wife and I managed the HOA. I handled logistics, vehicles, storage, tools. She selected targets, residents whose cars she viewed as non-conforming or who questioned her authority. We'd cite them for violations, then stage a protective removal, when they were away. He described visiting a surplus auction for the angle grinder, housing the Tesla in the vacant Dogwood Court lot, even logging battery levels to ensure it didn't alarm. He collapsed when explaining Karen's obsession. She kept saying one exotic car would breed another, then another, and soon we'd lose our family-friendly reputation. I went along because, she's my wife. I thought we could manage risk. He slid the manila envelope across the interview table. It contained check copies made out to Cranston Community Consulting LLC, payment siphoned from HOA fines into a private slush account. Total, $38,400 over 18 months. Gilbert's pen paused. Why the money? Karen said if we faced legal threats, we'd need a defense fund. Harold's voice cracked. I see how insane that sounds now. Deputy Macaulay's notes underlined, motive equals power plus financial gain. Karen cornered back on Silver Birch Lane, Karen's attorney, Stephen Pendleton, arrived. Polyblend suit, silver cuff links. Gilbert returned to serve the arrest warrant. Karen met them on the porch, arms folded like a general guarding a fortress. Pendleton argued harassing tactics, Gilbert cited Harold's signed confession and digital proof. Karen's composure faltered only when Harold, flanked by deputies, was led from the patrol car to catalog personal effects. He wouldn't meet her eyes. She hissed, "You broke formation," as though they were soldiers and he'd deserted the line. Gilbert cuffed her. Karen Cranston, you're under arrest for grand theft auto, burglary of a habitation, conspiracy, and embezzlement. Neighbors gathered at windows, a silent Greek chorus. Sam and Marisol stood in their yard, hands linked. Tessa Lynn's phone streamed live for the neighborhood Facebook group. When Karen was escorted to the cruiser, a hush fell, then someone, a teacher named Mrs. Rollins, clapped. One clap became many, tentative but growing, like the first drops of rain before a sweeping thunderstorm. Processing and plea bargains at county jail, Karen and Harold were booked, mugshot, and placed in separate holding cells. The district attorney's office filed charges. Harold's cooperation earned him a conditional plea agreement, testify fully, repay restitution, accept 5 years probation, and perform 1,000 hours of community service. Karen declined all deals. In an arraignment packed with journalists, she pled not guilty, insisted the HOA charter shielded her actions, and called herself a guardian of community standards. The judge denied bail based on risk of witness tampering. She was remanded pending trial. Community fallout within 72 hours, the Silver Birch Meadows HOA board convened an emergency meeting in the clubhouse. For the first time, Karen's embroidered "President" banner was missing from the podium. Marisol stepped into the interim chair role and motioned to suspend Karen's authority pending outcome of the case. The motion carried 18-0. Elias, invited to speak, kept it factual: timeline of the theft, digital evidence from his cameras, Harold's confession. He ended with a call for structural reform, rotational leadership, independent audit of fines, transparent meeting minutes, and a 2/3 homeowner vote required for invasive enforcement actions. Applause thundered through the room. Real, cathartic, sustained. Restoring the Roadster 2 days later, Elias visited Silver Leaf Collision Center, where technicians replaced the Roadster's quarter panel, re-clear-coated the paint, and recalibrated battery health after its rough handling. Insurance covered most costs, the remainder would come from the Cranston Restitution Fund. The sight of the emerald green bodywork under shop lights felt like seeing a patient wake from surgery, fragile but alive. He drove home cautiously, every whir of the tri-motor drivetrain a reassurance. As he turned onto Silver Birch Lane, children waved from yards. A hand-painted sign hung across Sam and Marisol's porch rail: "Welcome home, Elias." He parked, opened the gull-wing door, and, for the first time since that awful night, breathed without tension in his chest. Sensors pinged green. Cameras recorded nothing more sinister than a squirrel darting along the fence. One more visitor that evening, Harold. Now free on bond under house arrest, shuffled onto Elias's driveway, GPS anklet visible. Sam watched from his porch, ready to intervene, but Elias raised a calming hand. "I wanted to apologize in person," Harold began, voice raw. "I'm selling the van, liquidating what assets we can. You'll be repaid." Elias nodded. "Thank you. But money doesn't untangle everything." Harold's eyes glistened. "I know. I have to testify against my own wife." "You're testifying for the truth," Elias said. "For everyone she hurt." Harold glanced at the spotless Tesla. "You'll lock it up before you sleep?" "Yes, old habits die hard." "Good. Some things deserve safeguarding." He managed a faint smile and turned back toward the Colonial, porch lights flicking on at his approach like stage spots for the next act in a drama that was far from over. A quiet night later, Elias stood in his garage, hand resting on the Tesla's roof. The chain remained. Repaired, rethreaded, but still wrapped through the suspension arm. He considered removing it, then left it in place. Not out of fear, but as a reminder, vigilance balanced freedom. Out the window, trunk lights twinkled on tidy maples. No shadows skulked along fences, no engines idled unseen. He powered down the garage lights and crossed the threshold into his house. For the first time since moving day, he felt Silver Birch Meadows might become the peaceful haven he'd envisioned. A community where neighbors looked out for each other, not over each other's shoulders. But he also knew new leadership must forge lasting safeguards, else history would repeat under a different tyrant. As he drifted to sleep, he pondered the irony: in spaceflight, small course corrections early on prevent catastrophic deviations later. On the ground, guiding a neighborhood required the same principle: minor adjustments in policy and accountability before resentment reached escape velocity. Tomorrow would bring committee drafts, bylaw revisions, meetings with Detective Gilbert about the upcoming trial. But for tonight, the house was quiet, the Roadster secure, and the sky beyond his window shimmered with Orion's belt, 3 bright stars aligned, pointing to a deeper truth: order and justice weren't opposites, they were coordinates that, plotted together, let communities travel safely through the dark. Early December settled over Silver Birch Meadows like frosted glass. Clear, brittle, ready to shatter at the first sharp knock. Dr. Elias Monroe felt that same tension inside his ribcage as he reviewed a last-minute message from Detective Marco Gilbert: Judge Callahan granted Karen supervised release, ankle monitor only, no nighttime travel. Defense spun a medical anxiety argument. We need eyes up. Supervised release. Elias reread it, jaw tight. 2 weeks earlier, Karen had been remanded without bail. Now an appellate judge in neighboring Oak County overturned the ruling on humanitarian grounds, citing community ties and nonviolent history. The caveat: she must remain home between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m., exactly when the Tesla thefts had occurred. Gilbert phoned moments later. Her attorney's crowing she'll beat the rap. I don't like loose ends, document. You game to help us close the loop? Elias pictured the Tesla Roadster Plaid, newly repaired, its emerald skin gleaming beneath garage LEDs. Name the plan. Operation Evergreen. Gilbert, Deputy Tanya McCauley, and Elias met in the Whitaker's kitchen, whiteboard diagrams wedged between holiday wreaths. The outline was simple, the execution precise. Public departure. Elias would announce, loudly, the resumption of his NASA training in California. False vulnerability: he'd park the Roadster inside the garage, chain it again, but weave a second, hidden lock through the drive axle, one released electronically by remote. Silent witnesses: 2 plainclothes officers would bunker in Sam and Marisol Whitaker's spare bedroom, with direct line of sight to Elias's garage entry camera. Proximity alert: a microsensor on the chain would trip a silent text if jostled more than 2 degrees. If Karen tried anything, even a midnight stroll, the system would call the tune. Sam poured black coffee. You sure you're baiting the right hook? Karen's ankle monitor pings any time she leaves her property. Gilbert shook his head. The vendor sets a 200-yard geofence. Her garage sits just inside the boundary. Her attorney argued she needs late-night access to asthma equipment stored there. Elias arched a brow. Asthma equipment? McCauley smirked. Bolt cutters must be great for the lungs. The announcement on December 6, Elias posted an enthusiastic update to the neighborhood network, headed back to Edwards AFB for Phase 2 of Propulsion Boot Camp, 6 weeks under Mojave stars. Appreciate everyone's support. He staged a luggage-loaded rental SUV on his driveway and even asked Tessa Lynn to film a Bon Voyage clip for her vlog. The footage captured Elias waving goodbye, vehicle rolling out of sight, then turned to Sam salting the driveway for ice, mundane, perfect. Meanwhile, the real Elias slipped through Sam's side gate and into the Whitakers' warmly lit guest room, where 2 officers unpacked thermoses and night vision binoculars. At 9:01 p.m. sharp, the neighborhood fell into hush. No mail trucks, no teens on scooters, only brittle leaves skittering across asphalt. First movement at 11:47 p.m. The chain sensor pinged a 1-second tremor, nothing sustained, maybe wind. 20 minutes crawled by. Elias's phone buzzed 12:16 a.m., tether shift detected. Live camera feed showed the side door lock twisting, a gloved hand inserted a tension wrench, nerves steady as a surgeon's. McCauley radioed, Alpha teams move to Garden Gate. Hold until breach. 2 cruisers idled dark a block away. The door clicked, in slid Karen, ankle monitor wrapped in aluminum foil and duct tape. She carried bolt cutters longer than her forearm, plus a small acetylene torch in a tote marked seasonal wreaths. The sight sent a tremor through Elias that no high-G roll ever had. She crouched, torch hissing blue, sparks leaping like meteors as the chain's titanium sheath absorbed heat. 5 minutes of concentrated flame, then a single clink, the outer sleeve split. Karen switched to cutters with practiced rhythm, clamp, ratchet, clamp. When her tool bit the final link, she whispered, just like last time, Harold. But Harold wasn't there. The pin and the flood. When the link sheared, the chain slackened, triggering a concealed pin inside the axle lock. Instantly every floodlight inside the garage blazed white, brighter than a movie set. Karen recoiled, eyes wide, torch tumbling to concrete. She sprinted for the side door, it slammed shut, officers Gilbert and McCauley blocking escape, pistols drawn but angled down. Gilbert's voice boomed over a bullhorn from the driveway. Hands where I can see them, Karen. Step away from the vehicle. She hesitated, gaze flicking to the Tesla with something between longing and rage. Then she raised both hands, bolt cutters still dangling. You're making a huge mistake. I'm checking safety equipment per HOA bylaws. Elias emerged behind the officers. The chain remained tethered to the hidden lock. Karen had never noticed the redundancy. He felt a tragic pity, a life so bent on maintaining control that even shackles couldn't dissuade her. Safety inspection? He echoed. Your torch nearly set my lithium battery ablaze. Karen's mask buckled. This car violates aesthetic harmony. Exotic colors attract criminals, devalue family appeal. Gilbert cuffed her mid-rant. Macaulay read Miranda. The moment Karen was escorted out, Elias approached his roadster, knelt, and touched the still-warm titanium sheath, a bruise, but not a wound. Systems green. Zero vapor lock. Harold's midnight dash from across the cul-de-sac, a door banged. Harold, shoeless, wearing flannel pants, stumbled onto the lawn shouting, "Stop. She didn't mean, she's medicated, please." He advanced toward officers with arms wide, then froze at a command to back up. Tears streaked his cheeks, but he complied. When Karen was driven away, Harold sagged onto the curb, head in hands. Elias walked over, crouched. "She needs help," Harold whispered. "She needs to stop," Elias replied, gentle but firm. Harold nodded, a man finally surrendering to gravity. 3 days later, bail court reconvened, this time as a circus. Stephen Pendleton filed an emergency petition. Karen required outpatient psychiatric evaluation, not incarceration. Assistant DA Leah Probst countered with video of the break-in, torch, cutters, foil-wrapped monitor. Judge Anita Weiss scheduled a formal hearing, remanding Karen to county lockup pending psych review. Outside the courthouse, news cameras flashed. Harold waited at the bottom of gray concrete steps clutching a grocery store tote. Inside were 2 cheeseburgers, fries, and a large root beer float, Karen's childhood comfort meal. Guinness dark clouds scudded overhead, wind whipped the top burger box open, salt and ketchup spattering Harold's sleeve. Elias, present to observe, kept back as reporters swarmed Harold. A microphone hovered. "Sir, do you defend your wife's actions?" Harold's jaw flexed. "She's under unimaginable stress." The HOA entrusted her. Mid-sentence, deputies escorted Karen in ankle chains toward the prisoner van. She met Harold's eyes, mouthed, "Stand firm." Something inside Harold snapped like overstressed composite. He spun, hurled the tote in a greasy arc. Burgers sailed. Fries scattered like golden confetti. The root beer float exploded against Deputy Macaulay's vest, sticky foam cascading. Officers reacted instantly. 2 tackled Harold, cuffing him amid smashed patties. A reporter shrieked. Cameras whirred. Karen erupted, shrieking, "Police brutality." She thrashed, deputies wrestled her into the van. In the chaos Elias saw the tragic inevitability. When control slipped from Karen, Harold absorbed the overload, short-circuiting. A food fight as protest, a bizarre footnote to Grand Theft Auto. Double booking at county jail intake. Harold joined Karen in adjacent cells. He'd violated bond conditions, no hostile acts toward law enforcement, and lost his probation deal. DA Probst tacked on assault with a food substance and attempted interference with official duties. Minor charges, but enough to revoke house arrest. Harold begged for his plea back. Probst offered a diminished version, restitution plus 6 months county time, no probation. He accepted, voice cracking. Karen fumed. She demanded a new lawyer. Pendleton was too conciliatory. She even fired 3 public defenders before the judge forced her to choose. Court watchers dubbed her the HOA Queen. Tabloids ran sidebars on Teslagate, and late-night hosts joked about the crime of gluttonous decor. Neighborhood reverberation. Silver Birch Meadows residents oscillated between relief and voyeuristic fascination. With Karen jailed, the interim board, led by Marisol, froze all fines, hired an independent audit firm, and drafted a transparency charter. Rotating presidency, 1-year term, max 2, all citations require board majority vote. Body-worn cameras on compliance officers' 90-day grace period before fines accrue. Elias lent technical help, an open-source portal where homeowners could view proposed citations and upload rebuttals before votes. In the first week, site traffic hit 70% of households. By Christmas, it topped 92%. The charter passed 87-3. 2 no votes came from absentee landlords. The third, House 17, rented to a distant cousin of Karen's. Telescope nights and flashback shadows for Elias. Life approached normal. He assembled his backyard 12-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, patching into NASA's JPL ephemeris feed. December's Geminid meteor shower painted green-white streaks across the dome. Yet every clang of a garbage can at night jolted him upright. Trauma echoes take long orbits. One evening, Sam joined him at the scope. Tomorrow heralds sentencing, Sam noted, focusing on Orion Nebula. You attending? Closure matters, Elias said. But I'm still worried about Karen. Appeals, delays, she's unpredictable. Sam snorted. After that stunt? Doubt she'll see daylight soon. Elias wished certainty came so easy. Sentencing day Judge Weiss handled Harold's case in brisk fashion, 6 months county jail, 1,000 hours community service, $18,000 restitution. Harold apologized to Elias in open court, voice shaking. Elias, speaking during victim impact, kept it short. I hope Mr. Cranston uses this time to rebuild integrity and peace. Outside, reporters asked Elias whether he feared more retaliation. I trust the justice system and my community, he said, half self-encouragement, half truth. As cameras powered down, a man in an overcoat approached, pressing a business card into Elias's palm. Dr. Monroe. I'm Nathan Briggs, bail bondsman. Karen's parents wired collateral, she may post within 72 hours. Elias's stomach dipped. Even after violating release. Judge Heston in family court owes Pendleton favors. Their shopping bond requests. Briggs lowered his voice. You didn't hear that from me. Preparing for the unthinkable, Gilbert confirmed the possibility, a separate division could authorize bond pending psychiatric evaluation if defender shows family support and treatment plan. He groaned. System Swiss cheese. Elias refused to be surprised twice. He contacted Cassidy Sloan, an insurance-grade security consultant, to harden the property, Kevlar-reinforced side door, biometric lock with one-time codes for Sam and Marisol, seismic glass brake sensors, and a hidden spike strip that rose if the garage door opened without keypad authorization. Cassidy grinned. You want Fort Tesla? I can do Fort Tesla. They installed in 48 hours, finishing Christmas Eve. Snowflakes dusted the asphalt as Elias signed the invoice. At midnight, church bells drifted on cold air. Somewhere downtown, fireworks popped. Peace held, for now. On January 4th, a rust-red Honda Civic eased down Silver Birch Lane. Dashcam of a passing rideshare later captured the driver, petite figure in a teal door-dash jacket, baseball cap low, sunglasses despite winter dusk. The Civic parked 3 houses past Elias's. The figure hefted an insulated food satchel, ambled up the sidewalk, then diverted into Elias's side gate, unseen by all but one. Tessa Lynn's live stream again. Guys, weird delivery lady just went behind Dr. Monroe's, she whispered to her 4,000 followers. She typed a quick Discord ping at Elias Home Security, a private webhook straight to Elias's phone. Elias, inside writing a propulsion plasma simulation, saw the alert. His heart skipped. He toggled camera feeds, biometric lock flagged success, code 1492, one of 5 emergency bypass codes stolen from the old HOA database. Cassidy had predicted the risk. Bypass still required secondary fingerprint, yet sawdust in the scanner suggested forced error override. A shadow crossed camera 3, the garage interior. The figure tossed the door dash bag aside, slipped on mechanic gloves, and advanced to the Tesla. Hood up, they yanked starter relays like a practice tech. A beanie slipped, coarse blonde hair fell. Elias felt blood chill. Karen. She'd shaved 2 inches off her hair, lost weight in county meals, but rage lit her eyes. She slid into the driver's seat, oblivious to the spike strip warming up beneath rear wheels. Elias dialed 911 on speaker, sprinting to Sam's front yard where the control panel perched behind a decorative birdhouse. He keyed a code, armor on. Accidental launch inside the garage, Karen engaged drive. The Tesla lurched, rear tires spinning against self-tightening chain and spike strip. Rubber shredded, the tri-motor's torque overwhelming half-inflated tires. Finally the chain anchor sheared. Not at the lock, but at its concrete bolt, ripping free. The car catapulted forward, smashing through the closed garage door in a blizzard of plywood and styrofoam insulation. Elias burst from the Whitaker's gate in time to see green metallic blur shoot across his driveway, fishtail, and slam the neighbor's decorative lamppost. Airbags blossomed. Steam hissed from ruptured coolant lines. A moment of eerie silence followed, broken by Karen's scream, "Farrell, wounded." Rapid response Deputy Macaulay's cruiser arrived within 2 minutes, siren slicing winter stillness. Tessa's phone stream captured deputies yanking open the crumpled driver door. Karen shrieked, "He set a trap. Illegal entrapment. I'm the victim." Blood trickled from her temple where the airbag seemed split skin. Paramedics arrived, Gilbert too, trench coat flapping like a crow's wing. As Karen was strapped to a gurney, Gilbert read fresh charges: burglary, grand theft auto, attempted criminal mischief, felony vandalism, escape from custody, and reckless endangerment. This time no bail judge could claim her nonviolent. Harold, still in county stripes on work detail trash duty, heard via deputy radio. He sank onto a curb, head in scrapbooked hands. The final fissure between loyalty and reality ripped wide. Karen had chosen crusade over marriage, over sense, over everything. Media storm and community reckoning. Local news vans clogged Silver Birch Lane. Reporters interviewed neighbors about door-dash deception and spike-strip Tesla defense. Social media crowned the story #HOA heist 2. Late-night monologues joked, "Florida man. Hold my HOA bylaws." Yet beneath spectacle lay fatigue. Residents, once mere extras, now demanded structural change. The Transparency Charter was a start, but they wanted symbolic healing. Marisol proposed an emergency HOA summit at the clubhouse. Every homeowner encouraged to speak, no time limits, free childcare, donut tower. Elias, invited as opening voice, mulled what healing sounded like. The summit on January 10th, folding chairs filled in concentric arcs. A banner read, "From control to community, Silver Birch Meadows rebuilds." Sam set up hot cocoa, Mrs. Rollins organized coloring tables. Marisol opened, "We've witnessed rules weaponized, trust broken. Tonight we reclaim both." She introduced Elias. He approached the podium, a paper-thin tremor in fingers. He preferred test stands to microphones, but eyes around him glimmered expectation. "Neighbors," he began, "I design engines that beat gravity. Every launch relies on 2 forces, controlled thrust and precise guidance. Too much thrust, you tear apart, too little, you never lift. Guidance keeps the mission true. Our community lost balance, thrust with no guidance, rules with no empathy." He recounted events briefly, then pivoted. "Resilience is an engineering principle, redundancy, failure-safe modes, continuous feedback. Let's engineer our HOA the same way. Rotate leadership, audit enforcement, empower dialogue. Mistakes will happen, redundancy catches them. Conflict arises, feedback corrects course." Applause spread like sunrise. People queued, elderly Mr. Du Bois describing a fine for a flag, the Delgados recounting a towed BMW, a teenager whose skateboard ramp got bulldozed. Each story a suture breaking open. But by speaking, they re-stitched something new. Resolutions. After 6 hours the meeting produced a community covenant. 1. HOA board capped at 5 members, voted annually. 2. All citations must list photographic evidence and pass a 48-hour homeowner review. 3. Mediation committee, volunteer lawyers, social workers, handles disputes before fines. 4. Annual third-party audit. 5. Mandatory service projects to build, not police, tree planting, home repair for seniors, vote tally, 94-0. Even the absentee landlord's proxies signed. Silver Birch Meadows, once a landscape of manicured fear, felt suddenly organic, imperfect, alive. Epilogue, constellations and clean slates march, warmth eased snowmelt into gutters. Elias, back from a truncated but completed NASA boot camp, rolled the Tesla to the driveway, doors open for neighborhood kids to glimpse 0 to 60 data. Scar on the quarter panel remained under clear coat, a conversation starter. Every vehicle has history. Scars mark survival. Harold, released early for good behavior, joined Habitat for Humanity builds per court order. On weekends he planted crepe myrtles along HOA walking trails, side by side with Sam, sweat equal. Karen's trial proceeded, a jury found her guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 8 years state prison, mental health treatment mandated. Reporters asked Elias for comment outside the courthouse. He paused, then said, "I hope she finds peace, and we all learn vigilance must serve compassion, not replace it." That night, Elias and Tessa calibrated the telescope for a rare conjunction. Venus, Saturn, and Mars within a 5-degree arc. Neighbors gathered on blankets, cocoa in hand. Children gasped, adults forgot cell phones, even teens muttered, "Whoa." Overhead, celestial bodies danced in cooperative gravity, each holding course, respecting harmonic law. Marisol clasped Elias's elbow. "We're naming the new pocket park after you, Monroe Commons." He laughed. "I didn't do this alone. You steered the ship." "We all did," she corrected. Guided thrust. Up in the heavens, a meteor flared, brief, brilliant, leaving just enough glow to remind watchers that friction, managed well, doesn't destroy. It lights the way. In every neighborhood, workplace, or family, there is a delicate orbit between order and freedom, and the saga of Dr. Elias Monroe and the formidable HOA President Karen reminds us what happens when that balance drifts off course. We learn that rules, like the laws of physics, exist to protect and guide, but when wielded without empathy they become weapons that bruise trust, fracture community, and invite rebellion rather than cooperation. Elias's vigilance, documenting every notice, installing redundant safeguards, and, ultimately, inviting transparency, teaches the importance of proactive stewardship over our own well-being, yet his willingness to forgive Harold shows that justice without compassion is hollow. Harold's eventual confession highlights a second truth: integrity delayed is still possible, though always at higher cost. We also witness that resilience is seldom a solo endeavor. The neighbors who brought cobbler, shared nightwatch duty, and voted in new bylaws prove that communal strength grows when individuals step out of quiet frustration and into collective action. Finally, Karen's downfall illustrates that clinging to power or perfection is a brittle way to live. Genuine security comes from relationship, not control. Taken together, these lessons urge us, especially those of us seasoned by decades of victories and regrets, to practice vigilant kindness. Honor rules, because they keep us safe, but temper them with mercy, because that keeps us human. Guard your treasures, yet remember that the most valuable assets are trust and reputation. Confront abuse early, before small cracks widen into catastrophic failure, and, whenever possible, choose restoration over mere retaliation, for no community can thrive while anger governs the agenda. If this story pushes you to reflect on your own circles, HOAs, committees, families. Let it inspire balanced leadership, honest record-keeping, and open dialogue, so that everyone can travel in a stable, uplifting orbit together. If these insights resonated, please show your support, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell, so you never miss our next deep dive into life's hidden flight paths.